Those are the mandated courses. Accounting for, Rizal has 3 units, NSTP has 3, PE has about 4 units. That's still a considerable number of units that we have to think about. 8 units in all, right? And we are guided on the next slide, much like what EDCOM has found out, by the OECD report on the Learning Compass. At higher education, we also need to be concerned with overload, gaps, content, inequity, and implementation, which we found out, Mr. Chair, as the same issues that were originally addressed, next slide, by 3 ASEAN member states. These are Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand, who actually shifted their higher education ecosystem to a minimum of 3 years in terms of duration and a maximum of 5 or 6, particularly for those degree programs covered by international accords, which is understandable. We have them in the Philippines also. But moving towards a shorter duration of time in college, where their secondary program ends, or their basic education program ending at about 11 or 12 years, there's something that probably they're doing right because their economies are advancing quite fast. So given this, we also heeded the call and observation. In fact, even prior to the discussion by EDCOM 2, as shown on the next slide, there's one degree program, Mr. Chair, who's actually seen that it's possible to reduce further the duration of the degree program. This is the degree program in tourism management and hospitality management. If you notice, Mr. Chair, if they're coming from the ABM track in senior high school, they have lesser number of units. The question is, why was it only these 2 programs who moved towards the recognition of the credentials in senior high school? The reason? Because the articulation between GE, Prof Ed, and majorship back in the implementation of K-12 as it was designed was absent. So we have high hopes that the current context affords us the opportunity to rethink and see how the model that was created by, for instance, BSTM and BSHM may be replicated. And the reason why I'm saying this, Mr. Chair, is that on the next slide, if you look at the senior high school elective system, as it is proposed right now, we have just not finished our work here, but Mr. Chair, we are wanting to identify, for example, in the arts, social sciences, and humanities strand, or electives cluster rather, sorry, I'm transitioning to the terms. Mr. Chair, there is a higher education course that is related to citizenship and civic engagement. Creative industries. Creative writing is an actual course with 4 variations in a standard creative writing program in college. So if DepEd is mindful already that these can actually be part of the electives program in senior high school, then we can free up higher education degree programs to actually account for the more industry-related or industry-demanded skills, competencies, knowledge sets that we cannot do so much of right now because of the constraints in the design of a degree program as they exist. So if you look at STEM, for instance, Mr. Chair, if you look at some of the existing engineering programs, you will find some of these courses in their curricula. But DepEd is offering that those people who have competencies in STEM, take them early on so that you could advance a little more when you enter higher education. So the issue here, Mr. Chair, is that we need to fine-tune the senior high school credit recognition process because some of the elective courses have equivalents or related courses in the existing PSGs. Now, if we do this, Mr. Chair, the next question to answer will be, what can we do to optimize them for admission and program placement? What do I mean by this? Imagine a STEM student who was able to take, Yusek Gina, how many electives should they take? About 5?
Average of 5.
Average of 5. If you've taken already, of the 5, assuming that you already explored also the other areas, how do we call them? the doorway option. Let's say you have taken 3 of the STEM courses. Shouldn't those 3 STEM courses matter in your application for admission to a STEM-related degree program? And therefore, if you earn that credit, don't take the subjects related to those subjects anymore. And hence, you will be measured as, okay, you're clear to enter STEM. Of course, it's easier said than done, because that will require an upbeat, more enhanced a set of admission protocols. That's where I will bring this short presentation to its conclusion. On the next slide, Mr. Chair, 2 questions are now important to us because we will be meeting all the technical panels soon. Because this means that we are already in agreement at the level of the technical panel for general education. Now that GE is likely going to change, hopefully for the better, we need to really underscore how Prof Ed and specialization will naturally evolve. Will this mean a reduction, an enrichment? How is it going to look like? Vis-a-vis the regional and global trends in terms of the design of higher education curricula. I remember in one Philippine mission to the United Kingdom, there was an articulation that we graduate our lawyers very late because there's just too many things that we take at pre-law and then law proper and so on and so forth. Of course, I commented that, well, we should go back to basic ed as well because we could have provided a more efficient way to make those early credentials recognizable. And then what are the considerations in recognizing the credentials from the strengthened senior high school within the qualification and admission context of each degree program or a cluster of degree programs? So for the information of the public, a PSG or a Program Standards and Guidelines in CHED will have a separate articulation of admission, defining admission criteria, what needs to be taken, and so on and so forth. However, if we actually place that admission criteria specific to a degree program, there's some room of interpretation or misinterpretation or over-interpretation that might happen. This is precisely what happened to the earlier graduates of senior high school. They graduated from GAS and they wanted to apply to a STEM program. GAS has X number of units in STEM to begin with. But the understanding is that you should have taken the full STEM program. So, Mr. Chair, these are dilemmas in terms of curriculum design that we're looking at. But there are 2 interesting insights that we would like to put forward coming from the April 23 Interagency FGD. So, Mr. Chair, and our friends from Cocopea can actually confirm this. Next slide. The first is on college admission qualifications. We were told that a more stable issuance is needed to really determine what are the minimum qualifications for admission to a degree program. And this can prove to be of lasting impact, especially if DepEd, CHED, and TESDA all agree to those qualification standards. Mr. Chair, this could mean X number of subjects in this strand can actually lead you towards this entry-level qualification or admission to X number of degree programs in college. X number of NCs can help you transition towards this degree program or a combination, which is the spirit of the strengthened senior high school. But in anticipation of the changes that will take place, Mr. Chair, we now have a problem much like earlier. What happens when displacements take place? Right? Particularly those who are in the private education sector. Mr. Chair, there is a proposal to think of a junior college department, particularly in spaces within HEIs with senior high school offerings. There's going to be a reduction in the number of senior high school faculty, for sure. They will be repurposed, sorry for the term. But in private HEIs, what happens if they have that integrated system? You see, in CHED, you're required to have a master's degree before you can teach any higher education course. But the trainees in senior high school of DepEd also have the content and content-related qualifications to teach some of what what exists right now as GE courses. So